New survey reveals poor state of grassroots football, poor facilities and lack of funding to blame. Now, Jamie, obviously you mentioned about things getting cut back, but a Sky Sports News survey has revealed that poor facilities and a lack of funding are killing off football at grassroots level. More than 2,500 people responded to a survey inquiring about the barriers to participating in 11-a-side local football. Poor quality pitches and a lack of provisions from local authorities came top of the issues raised. More than 65% of respondents said they did not think local councils did enough to support facilities and the cost of low-level football, and 83.7% said the FA do not do enough to preserve the grassroots game. Now, the time demands of participating in local sport was also an issue, especially when poor weather affects already worn pitches and games end up backlogged into the spring. As we at Ibis well know, because we played one doubleheader on the weekend, and we've got another one coming up, and we've got a midweek game coming up. But anyway, it's one of them ones where one viewer, Lee from Glasgow, commented, one of the constant challenges is cancelled games and training sessions due to unplayable waterlogged pitches from November to March. The end of the season is then a problem due to accumulation of games and the need to play 2 or 3 times per week. Whilst weather is no fault of any authority, there is a consensus that in the event of extreme weather, local services could do more to prevent damage to pitches and then help return them to a playable state. 3G artificial pitches have been offered as a potential solution. This also came up in the SAL, Glemnet SAL AGM as well. Recently, but the cost of implementing and maintaining them would be a further drain on already limited resources. Another respondent to the survey, Mark Roberts, said, I would like to see the FA help schools with investments into 3G or 4G pitches. There are 3 schools in the area where I live, and I'm sure that would be enough so that teams could play week in, week out regardless of the weather. I also think that local leagues, especially for the young, would be better moved to the spring or the summer. Women and girls have been recently identified as a low participatory demographic being targeted for change. By the way, in that regard, big shout out to Samir Sawney of Motivate Sports and Fitness, and also Sophie and Rachel of Girls on the Ball for their Goals for Girls initiative that they're actually getting started. More information on that is on last week's show. Keep your eyes out on YouTube. We'll be releasing a video about that. But it's one of them was that according to survey feedback, they are more prone to dropping out of the sport when poor weather causes long breaks in training and cancelled games. The decline in quality of pitches was also highlighted as being a safety risk. Sam, a former player from Dorset, has suffered 2 breaks due to dangerously under-maintained pitches in his local area. He said, I've broken my ankle twice playing on poor standard pitches with potholes covering them, and as a result, I no longer play. I really miss it though. I cannot afford another break with work and family commitments. I've seen too many people to count suffering serious injury, not due to challenges, but due to the state of the pitch. So basically, a lot of people are saying time demands 20% in terms of what prevents people playing 11-a-side football every week. Time demands 20%, cost 10.1%, poor facilities / pitches 33.4%, other form of the game, e.g. 5 to 7 aside, 11.3%, and non-applicable, they play regularly, 25.2%. What is the biggest problem facing the future of the grassroots game? State of facilities and pitches was 44.3% of the biggest problem, with cost being 22.1%, antisocial behaviour 12.8%, lack or standard of match officials is 10.1%, other 10.7%. What would entice people back into playing regular 11-a-side football? Cheaper fees, 15.2%. Better facilities / pitches, 36.8%. Better match officials, 7%. Different form of the game / shorter games, evening leagues, roll-on, roll-off subs, 13.3%. Non-applicable, I'd still play, is 27.7%. Now, one odd thing about that actually is that at Glemnet SAL level, we actually do have roll-on, roll-off subs. They trialled it last season, and it's implemented for all divisions this season. But is one of them was your local council does enough to maintain pitches / facilities. Strongly agree 2.9%, agree 12.3%, neither agree nor disagree is 19%, disagree 35.1%, strongly disagree 30.7%. Your local FA does enough to preserve the grassroots game. Strongly agree 3.9%, agree 14.6%, neither agree nor disagree 26.2%, disagree 32.9%, strongly disagree 22.4%. Do you think the national FA does enough to preserve the grassroots game? Yes, 16.3%, but even more tellingly, no, 83.7%. 83.7% of people think that the FA does not do enough to preserve the grassroots game. Now that was from the 17th of March. From Thursday, 27th of March 2014, more than half of grassroots football leagues have experienced widespread disruption as a result of bad weather and poor facilities, leaving some facing an uncertain future, according to new research that highlights the scale of the crisis facing the game. Over half of all leagues have had to cancel more than 55 matches since October, and a third had to cancel over 7 weeks of fixtures entirely, says the survey by the Sport and Recreation Alliance, SRA. The same figures say that 55% had to cancel between 3 and 7 weeks of fixtures and 33% between 7 and 11. 6 out of those 10 leagues said that with better facilities or better drainage, those postponements could have been prevented. Faced with rising costs and council cuts in the budgets for maintaining pitches, there are widespread fears that it will be hard to turn around the trend in declining participation figures across all forms of the game. As the Football Association was punished for failing to reverse an ongoing decline in grassroots participation with a £1.6 million cut in funding from Sport England, the new survey showed the size of the challenge it faces. Local authority cuts to sport and recreation budgets have led to increased charges, although the picture varies across the country. Out of the 10 respondents who said that they paid for pitch hire, 6 in 10 leagues said that their costs had increased since last season by an average of 10% year on year. Cancellations are unavailable if your pitch is under a foot of water, but in most cases, smarter investment in maintenance or more modern pitches would have allowed play to continue, said Andy Reid, chair of the SRA. Now, Sport England cuts FA funding by 1.6 million %. The Football Association is set to lose 1.6 million of government funding because of a sharp decline in the number of people regularly playing the game. Sport England, the body responsible for distributing government funding to grassroots sports, said the warning sends a serious message to the FA that it needs to reassess its participation strategy. The FA was set to receive £30 million of Sport England funding from 2013 to 2017 to get more people playing football, but a sharp decline in participation means that figure will now be reduced. 1.84 million people currently play football once a week, according to Sport England's Active People survey, a decline of 100,000 on April 2013 and a 10% decrease on the 2005 figures. I think this is a serious message to the FA. Sport England chief Jenny Price told the BBC. We've invested over 4 years £30 million of public money in the FA, so they have a real responsibility to spend it wisely and deliver results. Taking 1.6 million away is a real sign they need to do something different, and I think they will take it seriously. FA General Secretary Alex Horne said he was disappointed with the announcement, which increases the pressure on the governing body at an already challenging time. Now, you know what? Personally, I play grassroots football on a weekly basis for a Glemnet SAL team, Southern Amateur League team called Ibis FC, who we feature in the grassroots segment. More on that in a bit. But the fact of the matter is this. I'd like to say, well done to Sport England for basically penalising the FA for the lack of participation in grassroots. You're trying. Hold on. Let me get this straight. For me, this is the epitome of mixed messages. Like, a lot of people are seeing a barrier to grassroots football. One of the main barriers being that poor facilities and then Sport England wonder why people they say, yeah, as I said, the survey by Sky Sports News said that, yeah, poor facilities and poor pitches were to blame for people dropping out of or as a barrier to the grassroots game. But at the same time, you're cutting funding. Correct me if I'm wrong, but does that sound moronic to anyone else as well?
Definitely.
Because first and foremost, the FA needs to do more. There needs to do more to basically promote the grassroots game and help it survive and thrive. But also, if entities such as Sport England are cutting funding because of a lack of participation, and one of the problems is facilities, correct me if I'm wrong, Gman, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't having better facilities mean you need more money to get those facilities and maintain those facilities?
Yeah, I would have thought so.
So cutting money, Sport England, congratulations, you are flop of the week contention. Because for me, it's just stupid. How are you going to cut? It's one of them ones. If you're going to cut investment anywhere, look at the Premier League. £3 billion for a TV deal just for the Premier League. And Sport England, you're cutting money that's supposed to be going to grassroots level. Thank you very much for sending mixed messages. So it's a case of, people are not participating, so we're not going to put money into it anymore. But the people you have got participating are crying out that the facilities are not good enough, and clubs are folding because they can't afford to fulfill fixtures because of a fixture backlog, because they can't afford to hire 3 and 4G pitches because it's so expensive. We're talking like 500 quid for an hour or two. Yeah. That's how expensive it is. And as I said, this came up as a huge issue at the Glemnet SAL/AFA Amateur Football Alliance half season AGM, annual general meeting. And that myself and Ollie Wooding went to on behalf of IBIS. And it's one of them ones. I don't get it. I really don't get it. You're basically penalizing grassroots for people not getting involved, but the reasons people are not getting involved is in relation to the funding which you're actually cutting. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. Once again, the powers that be are stupid. I don't know what you think about it.
No, it's true. It's remarkable because, like you said, if there's no money coming into the game, how is the game meant to improve? That's just the simplest factor.
Exactly.
In terms of the reasons why people don't get involved, there's a number of reasons. Social issues with money, as it is with us being in a tight economy and everything like that, as it is. Yeah. The age groups as well. I can't remember when we was at the health and safety course, but they were talking about the age groups that drop out. Yeah.
I think it was that. I think it was the 14 to 18 bracket, which sees a huge drop off already.
That as well, and you would have thought it's that area you need to be promoting the most because they are the future. If you can get them 14 to 18-year-olds to continue the game, and get a good filtration going where even if it's just 40% or 30% that were looking to get into football are still going through, then it's a good thing to get. I don't know the percentages, but I'm presuming by the numbers that have been spoken here, it can't be that much.
Yeah, but there's a huge drop off again in the Glemnet SAL a half season AGM. There were a couple of youth team coaches there, and basically there's a huge drop off in terms of young people going into adult football. And part of it, again, comes back to facilities. And it comes back to facilities.
And for me, I've said it before when we had the conversation when we were speaking about, I can't remember, it led into academies. And I still believe this. Yeah. I still believe, what they're trying to do. And this is... You can say whatever it is. It's speculation on my part, but I need to speculate on this one because I actually believe this is the way it's going. I think they're building a road for academies. They're anyone outside of an academy. They don't want to be involved in the game basically because they can't control it. And that's where my logical thinking, because I'm thinking that clubs now know we set up academy, we can have kids from whatever ages, we can stock them up ourselves. We don't have to go and scout as we did before.
It's just hoarding, isn't it?
We can just hoard. And it's happening. It's happening. If people can't see it happening, it's happening. Like, I'll take my club, for instance, Arsenal, and you just look at the young players that get hoarded in there and that don't even make it.
Yeah.
You know? And these guys potentially could be playing in the lower leagues, but they probably won't go to the lower leagues because after they've done with Arsenal, their whole, it's like, oh well, you know what, I can't be bothered no more. Let go in at 16. I can't be bothered no more.
Yeah.
They lose hope. We saw the documentary with Clark Carlisle and some of these kids, what they're being fed.
Yeah.
Because they're not being educated at the academies and stuff like that. But I've digressed. That's just another logic of thinking that I was going with.
Yeah.
And I don't know. To me, it just looks that way, man. It just, how Samir had a point, and I think it was he brought to our attention that news about the was it the Sikhs that were doing something within the local community of.
Oh wait, are you thinking about the Wolves supporters?
Wolves supporters, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was. I cannot remember it. We did it as we released it as a push point on YouTube. Yeah, the Bengali Wolves. That's like getting that community spirit together.
Yeah.
And it's so important. It's so important. I mean, our grassroots segment is going to go into a bit of detail about community, but it's one of them. I mean, Samir Sawney's talked about it. John Sitton has talked about it, both on Pitch Talk Meets, about the importance of community and getting that community spirit back.
Yeah.
And getting it back in spades as well. It's one of them. It's got to be,
and that's only going to happen with a helping hand.
Yeah. I mean, grassroots football is important. I mean, grassroots football is going to be one of them ones. It's grassroots football is important in terms of bringing communities together. Mm-hmm. Look at what we were talking about last week with Bradford City's disability FC team. With the Hambro Colts, with so many other sides in the community that are doing great things for the community. Haringey Borough Women's FC as well. We mentioned their pan disability sessions that have recently started. Yeah, Tom Wood, we just mentioned the Hambro Colts. It's a case of, I mean, you look at these community teams that are important, but they're just getting left by the wayside because of decisions like this by Sport England. If the FA's not distributing the money rightly, then talk to them. Rap them on the knuckles. But don't just say, oh yeah, we're just going to cut funding. So one of them was talk to the FA. Try and get something done. Try and get something done rather than just cutting the nose off to spite the face. Come on, there's got to be. I feel strongly about this because, of course, playing at grassroots level myself, I feel very strongly about this. I can't help it. So,
what I don't get is, why is everything so expensive? I
don't know. It doesn't need to be
at this sort of level.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be. I mean, obviously, you got clubs trying to survive.
Yeah,
but
because like that one player. Case study or account where the player said he broke his ankle twice or broke his leg twice. Yeah. It's like, you're not even playing on the best pitches. It's like, why are you paying so much if they're not even provided good facilities?
I mean, it's one of them. I mean, it's mad. It is mad, man. I mean, Jamie Bailey, you wanted to jump in on this point as well before we move on.
One thing that I've noticed, not only with the football, but if you've noticed, there's a lot of things that they've started doing since the 2012 Olympics because the sport just seems to call for it. I noticed that athletics is now a big thing. Also, they would rather have a multi-sports coach at a football club rather than a football coach at a football club. And I know this because I've done sessions that were to do with tennis. Or I've done a session that was based on cricket, and I've got no experience or or qualifications in either of those two things.
Yeah.
Premier League for Sport has taken over in terms of all of those different sports to try and boost up most of them participation sports, and rather than keeping it at football, they've gone and said to football clubs, okay, so are you able to keep your contracts with schools and possibly do new sports so that we can make you into even PE teachers, so that we don't have to go and get a contract with another club or another sport altogether, another sports coach altogether. And for me, I know what Gman is saying, where they're looking to bring academy players and hoard them, but I also see the point of the fact that they're not going to be doing that, because if you, I don't think they're going to be doing that too much, because it's already shown that football is basically a standby sport now. It's almost like it's second nature to people talking. Since 2012 was apparently a success, even though the quickest person in 100 meters wasn't even British, let alone English. It just makes me think they're just trying to build up. They're trying to tell people to get involved in the sport, and not even to have fun. They're just saying to kids pretty much, in order for you to lose weight, you're just going to have to exercise. Stop playing the computer or whatever. Go out there and exercise. Don't even play the sport that you like. When they're playing 3 or 4 sports anyway in school, and they go home just to rest. And when they're cutting more stuff as well, there's hardly any youth clubs. If anybody remembers play centres, and I remember play centre from back in my days, which is obviously after school club, but they're even cutting the money for that as well. So half of those have sort of dropped down as well. But then you
do have entities such as Samir Sawney's Motivate Sports and Fitness, who do after school clubs. That came from Samir and his co-founder. It was one.
Yeah, but where is it? Where do you think that has come from, though? From the fact that all of a sudden girls are deciding that football wasn't even the greatest thing on earth anymore, or they weren't even interested in playing sports when they were in PE. All of a sudden, people are trying to bring out charitable organisations, and I'm glad that he's doing what he's doing. But he wouldn't have had to struggle just to get it off the ground if money was already pumped into what they were already doing before.
Yeah,
and
but
this
see,
is the problem with.
Yeah, but see that you know what. I think you might have it a little misunderstood in terms of what Samir's doing and the struggles that he's had to go through. Which, you know what, Pitch Talk meets Samir Sawney. Have a watch of that, because it is actually very interesting. Because we go through in great detail in terms of Samir's journey with Motivate Sports and Fitness. I would encourage you to watch that. But at the end of the day, I mean, one of the problems that he did mention in our interview was the fact that certain entities had money thrown at them and they didn't know what to do with it, so they squandered it. So now it's a lot more difficult to get funding, which again comes back to the Sport England thing, with it looking so moronic that they are cutting funding for grassroots football. Because at the end of the day, there are certain entities that know how to use the money properly, but they're not getting a look in because there are so many of these academies and that kind of thing springing up. So
this is exactly what I'm talking about. Samir Sawney's idea is brilliant, especially for the Southall area, because I work there as well, and I hardly get any players in my session. And my session just consists of children between 6 and 10, which is already a problem already, and 11 to 15, which is also another problem. But apparently, this is what they want in that area, because apparently football is good enough just to be played in that area. That area right there is also about cricket. Not to be sort of discriminatory, but it is literally about cricket. It's not really to do with anything else.
But Samir, you got to bear in mind again. I think you might need to watch Pitch Talk meet Samir Sawney, because at the end of the day, like Samir Sawney's Motivate Sports and Fitness don't just do one sport. It's multi-sport, and it's not just hitting at one area. They are actually working. They're actually working in Ealing, in Hounslow, in Southall. They're working in a number of areas, and they're also trying to expand as well. So it's not just limited to one thing. Again, that for me, it seems that you might have it a bit misunderstood in terms of the pure facts behind it.
And isn't it more like about it's not as much about the sports, about the actual.
It's about the community. Yeah, it's about the community, getting people active, getting kids active, healthy, and giving them something productive to do. That's the important.
This is basically what I'm saying. I know that he's doing a lot more in terms of football, in terms of all the other sports. What I'm saying is basically where he's had a look in, it's basically been a struggle anyway just to get any sport off the ground, in not just in that area but also around in grassroots football, because community sports don't seem to get a look in anyway. And like I said on the news, on the update feed, if England are going to be progressing in terms of getting a trophy or being the best in the world at what they do, I don't see it happening anytime soon, even within the next 10 years. And I said that they could win the realistic targets are realistic in terms of what Greg Dyke said, but I don't think it's going to happen now because of the cutting of the funding, because it means that there's nothing that's going to happen. All they're going to do is they're just going to cut the funding and say, oh, raise the money yourself. Which is what, and then the community will be divided and say, well, that club's doing that, or that sport is doing better in that, so why don't we go to that place? And you're thinking, well, you're dividing the community rather than actually keeping it together. And I've noticed this in terms of my sessions as well as in terms of the sports. I don't mind what they're doing in terms of trying to build a community up again. But I've noticed with some of the sports, it's almost like you're having to battle. It's like if somebody said, "Oh, let's play rugby." If they knew that they were getting hurt, as soon as they get hurt, they're like, "Oh, I don't want to play. I don't want to play."
Yeah, but that's why there's touch rugby.
Even with that,
you can't get hurt. You can't get hurt in touch rugby because as soon as you touch, you drop the ball.
That's the thing. How many kids are still going to be running with that ball and then they get hurt?
Yeah, but that's the whole premise of touch rugby, that it's not contact.
Again, that's the whole point of it. If it's the thing. There's always going to be that argument to say, oh, should you be doing this or should you be doing that? And for me, there's no argument. It's just a case of let it be tried, and if it fails, then it fails. But if it doesn't, then plow more money into it. And obviously, as you said, Sport England have cut their funding. And that just pretty much says that there's certain bits of money in grassroots football are just not going to be there until the community are sort of together. If that makes sense, it's going to take a while before that, because it seems like there's too many communities that are divided. Like you couldn't even go across the road without actually saying, "Oh, I hate that guy," and you're thinking, well, you should like him because he might be able to he might be able to do something for you which actually benefits you in the long term.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily community. That almost sounds like that's leaning into kind of gangs and a completely different issue on that. And that's a complete. That
is part of the whole sport agenda, though. That's what they're trying to stop.
But you know what? I do want to take it back a couple of points on to the point where you were saying one thing with the athletics that happened after England or after Britain done so good. It was like they done this sort of campaigning about, we should invest more, invest
the
more.
Whole legacy issue.
The most frustrating thing about football, as you've already touched on a couple of times now, Jamie, is football in England especially has a lot of money in it, yet when they talk about grassroots, it's almost pity, but it's said with pity, but it's said with no authority. Like, it's like, oh yeah, grassroots doesn't have any money and we're waning and we need to try and help grassroots, but it's like it's just said without any real emphasis on trying to help grassroots.
Yeah,
that's what's frustrating.
Well, yeah, it's all talk and no balls, which I can't stand. It's one of them ones. It's legitimately just people being all talk. Yeah, it's like the FA even as an example. Yeah, we're gonna commit 150 million pounds to grassroots football. Where the hell has that gone? Has that been spunked away? Where is it? Is that a bit? There is still poor facilities. Where is that money going? Also, I said that's why I'm saying with Sport England. That's why I'm saying with Sport England kind of cutting the funding. Why have they just cut the funding? Why not work with the FA and other county FAs and work with the leagues and try and help see where the money's going and where it's best invested. That's my take on it. Alright, that's my take on it. But you know what, yeah. But like, I mean, as I said, that's my take on it, and well, it's it's just one of them ones where the whole thing is absolutely frustrating. It is very, very, very frustrating in that regard.